have a seat on your mat if you want. You can, yes. And we're going to start on our mats, lying on our backs today. So if you need props like blankets or quilts to get comfortable, if you want to have anything under your knees, that's fine too. We're just going to ground and center and breathe for a couple minutes, and then start with some movement on our backs before we come up to seated. So as you can see, I have my blocks ready, my blanket, and we're going to come down to the mat. So can I just invite everybody to come onto their backs? I still have my socks on because our studio, I believe, is built on a slab, and like most, office buildings, and so it's a little cold on the floor. But I'll take my socks off as my feet warm up on the mat. So down we go, and if you're just coming down onto your back and you'd like to just hug your knees to your chest, just to soften the low back for a few moments. Oh, also let me just say, I understand we didn't have class last Wednesday. I'm sorry about that. I am still in my second week of recovery from some abdominal hernia surgery. So I have modified my practice, my first active teaching class since my surgery last week. I feel fine, I'm just being cautious. But I just want to, it's a great reminder for all of us that we should modify our practice to what our body needs, right? So if you're dealing with a sore shoulder or, a sore back or a sore knee or anything, just do what feels good for you, not necessarily what I say to do. And if there's something I can't do today, I've taken some things out of our normal practice that I shouldn't do till next week. You probably won't even notice. But if you need to take something out of what I'm teaching today for you, please do it, okay? So onto our backs. Like I said, if you want to put something soft under your head or your back, go ahead. I'm just gonna hug my knees to my chest for a little bit and slowly rock gently from side to side, just massaging the back of the sacrum. Perfect. And then place your feet on the mat, and for a few moments you can keep your knees bent, but let's widen our heels out to the far long edges of the mat and gently point our toes more inward towards the center of the mat. And this is just going to set our thigh bones in our hips so we don't have to do anything to control them. And we're going to take one hand on our low belly, below the belly button, and one hand on the medium belly, below the lowest ribs. So both hands on the belly, one above the belly button, one below. And then your elbows are softly bent, and you're just going to let those elbows flop down by your sides. If you have really long arms, your elbows might be on the floor, that's fine. And let's begin to inhale through the nose. And this first couple breaths, let's exhale through the open mouth. You might even hear yourself doing a gentle sigh. Inhaling and exhaling. There we go. Inhaling and exhaling. And as you repeat this, let's close our lips and just breathing in and out through the nose, if that's possible for you. And concentrate on softening the abdominal wall under your hands. So it feels like as you soften the skin and the muscles beneath the skin, it might feel like your hands are going up a little further towards the ceiling and downward a little further towards the mat on your exhale. Just aware of the movement of your belly, upward and downward. We're going to try to keep that softness under our hands, at the same time recognizing the warmth of our palms and fingertips on our front torso area. And let's practice a little balanced breathing today. A little balance after that big Thanksgiving holiday is always welcome. So after a couple more of your individual breaths in and out, let's all take a giant exhale and sink the belly wall downward. And let's inhale for 4 counts. So as you're ready, let's inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's keep going. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more with the my count. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want you to continue on your own for about 30 seconds. Just inhaling to your count and exhaling. Keep going. Just a couple more rounds. That's perfect. And then just go back to your normal breath, maybe blink your eyes open, and let's stretch our legs long onto the mat, straightening the knees, letting those feet be about in line with each hip, left and right. Perfect. And then take your hands off your belly and gently, gently, carefully raise your arms overhead towards the ceiling. And then turn the palms in the direction so the palms are facing your feet. And slowly keep lowering those arms towards the floor behind your head. So depending on your shoulders, your body, your hands might be floating. They might be. Most people's probably are. Your hands might be on the floor, elbows slightly bent. That's fine. Just feel the opening as you flex your feet and push your heels away. And then gently wiggle your fingertips further away from the top of your head towards the wall behind your mat. Just lengthening, lengthening, lengthening. Flex the feet, push the heels away, and wiggle your fingers further away. Perfect. Now, with your arms back behind you overhead, take your right hand and use your fingers to circle your left wrist. And then you're going to take your arms and reach them back overhead with your hands around your wrist, and then move your arms to the right behind your head. So behind the back right corner of your mat, behind you. And feel that stretch along your left rib cage, left upper arm. I'm still flexing my feet, it just feels good on my legs. Then move your hands directly behind your head and switch. Left hand circles right wrist and move your arms behind you to the left and feel that stretch. This is in a way a half moon stretch, right? But I'm still flexing my feet, so my heels are pushing away and I'm feeling that stretch along the right side rib cage, right upper arm. Okay. Then gently move your hands right behind your head. Release the grip. So both hands are free, palms facing the ceiling. And we're gonna give ourselves some bird wing arms here, bending the elbows and letting the hands come down alongside our ears. Yeah, just feel what's going on here. And maybe lift your heart a little bit off the mat towards the ceiling. So do you feel your shoulder blades kind of unweight behind you? It's okay if you push your tummy up towards the ceiling too. Just feeling a little air come underneath your back. Yeah, good. And then go ahead with your arms exactly as they are. Start to bend your legs, sliding your heels off the mat, and then float your feet and bring your hands to your kneecap and hug your knees in towards your side ribs. Let's flex and point the feet here. Flex and point. Yep. Some ankle circles to the right and then to the left. And then a gentle hug with both hands hugging both knees in towards your side ribs. And then with your hands still on your knees, straighten your legs overhead, bringing your ankles together, and slide your hands around to the back of your thighs where your hamstrings are, and gently, gently firm your legs towards your chest. So did your legs stretch a little bit on the back side? They should have stretched a little bit on the back side. Then keeping those legs overhead, ankles together, slide your hands around to the front of your thighs, and I want you to gently press into the front of your thighs. This is where your quadricep muscles are. I want you to press your hands there, but don't let your legs move away from you. So fight back with your legs, pulling those legs into your hands and pressing your hands into your legs. Just take a breath or two. It's hard work, isn't it? Yeah. Then let's rebend the knees, hands to the kneecaps, hugging the knees in towards your chest. Place both feet on the mat with your knees bent. Reach your arms overhead again like roller coaster arms. And then stretch your legs long onto the mat, straightening at the knees, and snow angel your arms back down by your sides. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale out. And we're going to do that whole thing one more time. One breath in and exhale out. So keeping the legs long and straight on the mat. Inhale the arms overhead. Use your right fingers to grab your left wrist. As you exhale, stretch your arms behind you to the right. Feel your left ribs stretch. Inhale your hands back behind you overhead. Change your grip, left hand to right wrist. And exhale, arms to the left behind you, stretching your right side ribs. Inhale your hands behind, separating the hands. As you exhale, bird wing, bend your elbows and bring those elbows down alongside the ribs, your hands out to the sides. Good. One more time, inhale the arms overhead. And as you exhale, let's bend both knees at once, float the feet and hands to your kneecaps. Hug the knees down towards your ribs. Take an extra breath here. On your next inhale, straighten both legs overhead. First, hands behind the hamstrings. And then slide your hands around to the front of your thighs. Push your hands into your legs, but don't let your legs move away from your hands. Fight back. Rebending the knees, take a deep breath in, inhale here. And as you exhale, feet to the floor, arms overhead. Straightening both knees out in front of you. Inhale here, and as you exhale, snow angel your arms down by your sides. Excellent. Let's soften the knees and roll to the right. Come up to seated. We're going to do that all seated now. There will be very little twisting in class today because of me, but I'll let you know if there's good opportunities to put it into your practice. And I'm going to raise my hips by putting a blanket under my hips here. Once you're settled in your seated position on the chair or on the floor, just take your hands behind you, bend your knees. My feet are a little wider than my hips. Let's go ahead and windshield wiper those knees to the right and the left. You can let your shoulders go a little bit side to side, make it a little bit more organic. Just letting your head and your shoulders move left to right. Perfect. And then today, let's just cross those ankles and come up to Sukhasana. Sukhasana is like Mikasa as Sukhasa, but it's Sukhasana. There you go. And find a comfortable seat. Lifting the crown of our head up towards the ceiling, sort of lengthening the spine, starting at the top, floating your skull. Drop the shoulders down. Sometimes when we lift our head, our shoulders go up. We're going to try not to do that. So drop the shoulders down. Good. And then we'll tilt the right ear over the right shoulder. And then come back to center and we'll tilt the left ear over the left shoulder. Rooting down through the hips. Come through center, tilt the right ear over the right shoulder. Coming back through center, tilt the left ear over the left shoulder. Perfect. Come back to center, grow tall again, and then very gently turn your entire head to the right. Your eyes are following the direction of your head turn. So once you get to the place where you can't turn any further, just take a couple breaths, softening your shoulders down away from your ears. And then see if maybe on that third or fourth breath, your head will turn just a little bit more towards the right. And then slowly come back to facing forward. Drop the shoulders, and we'll go over to the left. And same thing, when you get to the furthest that your head will turn, just pause for a few breaths as you drop the shoulders. And as your head gets used to this position, maybe you can turn it just a little bit more towards the left. Coming back to center, let's face forward. Take our fingertips down to the side mat or the floor. Press down into all 10 fingertips. My wrists are floating, so I want to press down and lift my head higher. Shoulders drop down, 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 down. It's not just the tops of our shoulders that are dropping down. Our shoulder blades are dropping down too. So it might take a few breaths to kind of feel that. Yeah. And then let the fingertips float, turn the palms upward, bring your hands shoulder high, and now we're going to squeeze our shoulder blades together behind us and ask them to drop down one more time. Keep floating those hands up. Use your left hand to grab your right wrist. There's a lot of repetition today. And then to the extent that you can go over to the left, go ahead. You'll feel those right ribs starting to stretch a little bit, maybe your armpit. Let your left ear drop towards your left shoulder. Then let's come back to center, just like we did on our backs. Let's switch our hand. We'll go over to the right. Keep that left hip grounded and maybe drop your right ear just a little bit more. How does that feel? Come back to center. Separate your hands, palms forward. Here's those bird wing arms. We did them on our back. Now they're here. And this is, do you remember when I asked you to lift your shoulder blades or your heart up? Let's drop the shoulder blades back and push our heart forward and upward, feeling this seated cobra. Here it is. We're just getting that mobility in our upper chest. It's a little bit of a heart opener. And then reach the arms overhead. Kick those heels out a little bit wider than your hips. Draw the belly button back. And bring your hands to your legs as you curl down into this open space. If you'd rather use a block to raise your floor, go right ahead. Just see what you can feel. I'm not pushing this forward fold today. I still got some staples here. So, you know what, I'm sure they're fine, but I'm just going to modify. Eventually, let your chin drop towards your chest and stretch the back of your neck. Nice. From here, think about this as folding forward, but we're also going to twist our heart towards the ceiling. So the right hand is going to stay on your right leg, guys, and you're going to float your left arm up. And if it's possible, to rotate your heart to the left and look up towards your floating left hand. Give it a try. Instead of dropping our head down towards our right shoulder, let's move it towards our right toes. Really take the crown of your head and stretch it towards your right toes. Do you feel the difference from dropping or extending? Then let's lower the left hand, come back to center. Just take a breath in and a breath out. And then leaving that left hand grounded, let's float the right hand up as much as you like. And then see if you can rotate your shoulders more to the right, maybe looking up towards the ceiling or towards your right hand. And instead of dropping the left ear towards the shoulder, let's move the head towards our left toes. Extend your spine in that direction. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. Let's bring that right hand down and then start to come up, bringing those feet more to the center line and push your heels towards me. And let's fold forward towards our toes. If you can reach your toes, fine. If you cannot, hands on the shins or the floor. And let's just take this Paschimottanasana, one of the 10 fundamental poses of a yoga practice. So we did this on our backs with our hands into our thighs. Now we're reaching our hands a little further out and allowing our head to move towards our toes, which are pointing up towards the ceiling. Inhale 1, exhale. Inhale 2, exhale. Perfect. Gently come up. And let's soften the knees and come onto hands and knees and find child's pose, which I will show you, all right? So this is a good time. I think I can take my socks off now. My toes feel warm, all right? So if you're using socks and you find it slippery on your mat, this would be a good time to take them off. And we'll come onto tabletop position, hands and knees. I guess this is going to be winter for us here at the studio, right? We're going to start with socks and take them off.
Yeah.
Or slippers, whatever works best. So widen your knees to the furthest long edges of your mat and swivel your big toes to touch behind you and start to hinge back through the hips as you lower down your heart towards the mat. I'm going to choose to put my forehead on a block. It's a little less downward pressure, right? And it also, for those of you who've never tried this before, even if your head can touch the mat, it really changes the sensation on your spine when you drop your head below your hips than when you have your head in a level line with your hips. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. So I really like people to play around with bringing a block under their head. If you don't have blocks, you can stack your fists like patty cake and mimic a block that way. We'll just keep encouraging our tailbone to not curl down towards our heels, but to point more towards the back edge of our mat. Yeah. And then gently move the shoulder tops away from your ears and the shoulder blades down towards the back of your waistband. Take a couple more breaths here. If you'd like to interlace your hands behind the small of your back, or even just stack your hands on your sacrum, you may. Yeah. If you're interlacing your hands, squeeze your shoulder blades towards one another. And there's an option to float your hands off your back here, reaching your interlaced fingers towards the space behind your toes as you squeeze your shoulder blades together. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. And one more time. Inhale. And as you exhale, release your hands down under your shoulders. Press down to lift your upper body away from the mat. Let's join each other on hands and knees in what we call tabletop position. Again, good place to put padding under your knees if you haven't already. Right? So hands under shoulders, kneecaps under hips. We're going to start with a flat back and just move the head forward and inch the tailbone back again. Just straighten and lengthen our spine. Then take a nice inhale with your flat back. And as you exhale, curl your chin to your chest. Curl that tailbone down, round your spine. Yeah, arch. Here we go. Just finding that rounded spine. And then on your inhale, flatten out. Then let the belly button sink a little bit as you curl the tailbone towards the ceiling and face your face forward. Yeah, look ahead of yourself. And then exhale and inhale. Rounding and then arching your back. Yeah? And play around with what you're feeling today. This certainly does not feel like any cat-cow I've ever done before. You know, I think I've told all my regular students here that I don't think any cat-cow for me feels the same as anyone I've done before, but today especially. There's just stuff there that doesn't usually be there, but haven't we all been in that situation before, right? So curling down, that tailbone, lifting up the tailbone, tucking your chin to your chest, and then lifting your chin away and eyes forward. There we go. Perfect. And then pause for a moment with a flat back, and let's take our quarter dog puppy pose where our hips stay right where they are, right over the knees, but our arms take a big stretch forward. And if that's just too much pressure on your shoulders, you can always take your blocks, put them under your hands, and slide your blocks away a little bit so it's not quite such a severe drop. We don't like the word severe in yoga. It should be, in this class, hopefully a gentle feeling or a good feeling, never something that is causing you to recoil away from the movement. A couple breaths. Perfect. And then walk your hands back halfway to under your shoulders. This is where we can go up into our first downward facing dog. And if you don't want to do that, just do some cat cows or anything. I'm going to curl my toes under, lift my knees, and come up. There we are. You can start with bent knees, just stay there. You know, start to feel those knees. Oh, how long has it been since you've done this? Can you try to lift one heel and lower the other? Straightening and bending alternate knees, lifting and lowering alternate heels. Be kind and gentle to yourself. Perfect. Just lifting and lowering, just fundamental things today. Maybe you want to rise up onto your 10 tippy toes and then sink your heels back down again. If your shoulders get tired, just come down to your knees. And then if you're still with me in down dog, I want you to float your right foot up off the mat and just hook it behind your left ankle. So you only have one foot on the mat now, it's just your left one, yeah? I want you to come up onto your left tippy toes, and then I want you to sink your left heel down towards the mat. So all the weight is on that one foot. If that's not working for you, come down to your knees. And then let's switch it out. So the right foot is going to be the standing leg. The left foot is wrapped around the back of the right ankle. We're going to come up to the right tippy toes. And then sink the right heel down towards the mat. And just stretch the back of that right leg especially. A little bit more weight. Then let's come out of that. Both feet are on the floor. Let's rise up onto all tippy toes. And then down we go here. Curling the toes under, lifting the hips up and pushing them back a little bit in this modified version of puppy pose, because we've got our hips back, but we also have our toes curled under to stretch the roots of our toes. Take a couple breaths. Yep. And then shift forward so you can point your toes and press your feet down into the mat. And let's just do a very basic bird dog today. So stretching the right leg back and floating it off the mat. So I'm trying to keep my leg pretty much parallel to the mat. Some of you may have it a little lower, but what I do not want you to do is lift it way up high like I'm demonstrating right now. This is not the best way to do this. So it should be, your heel should be pretty much even with the back of your shoulders. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's not a gigantic heroic effort. Head moving forward. Let's bring that right knee underneath the right rib cage, tuck the chin, and we're just gonna hover here for a moment. Like we're gonna spring into action, but we're not going anywhere. Just hug it in, hug it in, hug it up, and then stretch it back again. We're gonna do that 2 more times if you have the energy today. So bring that knee underneath you, hug it in, hug it up, hug it in, hug it up, and stretch it back and float it. And there's 1 more to do if you're still with me. In we go. Perfect. Let's bring the right knee down, take that stretch back again, tailbone pointing toward the back of the room. Getting the weight off of our wrists for a moment. And then up we come onto tabletop, all 4s. We're gonna do the left leg now. So stretch it back and float it, flex the foot hard so that that heel feels like it's closer to the wall behind you than your toes, right? Push, push, push. Then hug it underneath your left rib, round your spine, tuck your chin, hug it inward, hug it upward, and then take it back again. 2 more times if you can. Hug it inward and upward. And with what you're able to do here today, I'm very proud of all of you. Back. And then bring that left knee down, walk your hands towards your knees, and come up to kneeling. Here we are, kneeling, and I'm looking at the camera right now. For those of us in the room, we have a really great vision of each other, right? You know, it's wonderful. But I'm like a silhouette today because of the brightness. I love the sunshine, but it's very, the sun is so low right now, right? It's very low. So let's go ahead and do some shoulder circles back. This is really important for our posture, and also so we don't get pain in our shoulders, right? We just want those shoulder blades to move up, move back, come down, and come forward. It's not just the tops of your shoulders, it's the whole shoulder blades. The next time they go back and drop down, can we just keep them there? Press down into the tops of your feet, and then lift the tip top of your head further towards the ceiling, wiggling your fingers down towards the mat, so those shoulders are dropping down. Perfect. Draw the belly button back, and then together raise your arms shoulder high, and squeeze the shoulder blades together behind you. I want you to keep that shoulder blade squeeze as you raise your arms overhead. Grab the left wrist with the right hand. Here's our kneeling sun salutation. Take a stretch to the right. Come back up to center, change your hand grip, and go over to your left. Come back up to center, palms forward. Then bend your elbows, these are the bird wing arms, and let your shoulder blades drop back, maybe your elbows, as your heart launches forward and upward towards the ceiling. And then inhale those arms forward, and here's where we're gonna step that beautiful right foot forward to the front of the mat. Okay, I've already got my blocks ready. I always use blocks on the kneeling sequence, so if they're just there for you, that would be awesome. We're gonna take our hands to our front leg this first time. If you're looking at the camera, I have my right foot forward and my left knee down and back. Perfect. So let's play around with these arms a little bit differently. Arms are overhead, shoulder blades dropped, and then windmill arms. So the right arm goes forward, the left arm reaches back, and maybe we turn our head all the way to the left, so maybe we can see our left thumb. And then let's come back to face forward with the arms overhead. Take a moment to just kind of square and be stable. And then left arm forward, right arm back, and if you can, look at your right thumb with your right eye. Yeah. And then from here, some of you might want to do a prayer twist. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to do a tilting windmill twist here. This is a modified twist for me. If you have back issues, maybe this is even too much for you, you can just come into your lunge for a few breaths. Prayer twist is welcome here. Yeah, just a little severe for me this week. So we'll just take a couple more breaths in this gentle rotational twist. Perfect. And then let's go up to face forward. Take your time. This is where I'm going to use my blocks and shift my hips back for a half split stretch with that right knee straightening out in front of me. Okay? So right toes are lifted towards your ceiling, but that tailbone is like, woohoo, I'm in the pilot seat. It's pushing back. Yes, and using those hip creases and your tailbone pressing back to create more length on the underside of that front leg. One last thing we can do is either hinge forward and downward, or we can take the tip top of our head and move it forward towards the front wall, lengthening the spine. And once you do that, once you lengthen the spine, for me, automatically, I hinge forward a little bit more. Maybe it happens for you, maybe it doesn't. Take a couple breaths, stretching here. And then we're gonna modify this, ground the front right toes, start to bend the right knee, walk your hands or your blocks forward, curl the back left toes under and lift the back knee if it works for you. So here we have a runner's lunge, right? Any height of the blocks is welcome. The higher the blocks, usually, it's not that it's easier, it just gives us a little bit more range of movement to get that height in our hips. And then you can move your head forward a little bit. That lifted back left heel, it's lifted off the mat, but it's pressing downward and backward, right? Down and back, finding length. If you want to do a rotational twist here, it would be the left hand on the left block or the mat, and the right hand on the right hip to turn your shoulders to face right. Squeeze that right knee underneath your tummy. Yeah? If you did do the twist, bring the right hand back down, lower the left knee, there we go, and then hop the right hand inside the leg, and we're just gonna walk that leg out to the right, so it's off the mat to the right, and your toes are even with your left knee, and then let's go ahead and come on up to gate pose. So we're right here. We've got that right leg extended out, we're lifting our arms up. There's an optional drop to the right here. Maybe turn your left palm to the ceiling. And then coming back through center, we can go to the left and float, turn your right hand to the ceiling, or you can ground your hand on the block or the floor and really press down into that grounded left hand to launch both hips a little higher towards the ceiling. Perfect. And then, coming back up again, I'm gonna take my 1 or 2 blocks under my shoulders and just inch my tailbone back a tiny bit today. This is a version of outrigger pose. Outrigger like the Hawaiian canoes with just the one stabilizer there. And I want you to drive your hips back a little bit till you feel a stretch on your inner right leg. Try to soften your shoulders and your hands so you're not fighting the floor. It's almost like, oh, the floor's there, but I really don't need it. So you really feel that leg. And take 1 or 2 more breaths. We're gonna work at lifting up a little bit so we can swing that right leg underneath us and do a couple of cat-cows or a child's pose to neutralize that left side. Good. Excellent. And then walk your hands back to your knees and come up to kneeling one more time, okay? Roll the shoulders back and down a couple times, squeeze the shoulder blades together, raise the arms shoulder high, give those shoulder blades another squeeze. So did you notice your hands come back when you do that? When you squeeze your shoulder blades together, it's like you're not reaching as far forward, but the reason you're not is because your shoulder blades are in the right place. There you go, and then we'll raise the arms up. Perfect. This time, turn your palms forward. Let's just do a little baby camel here. We're gonna bend the elbows into bird wing arms, and then turn the fingers down and put them behind our, behind your hips, but your fingers are pointing downward, and your entire hand is below your waistband. It's not up high on the small of your band. It's like 4 inches lower than that. Just slide the heels of your palms, right? Okay, and then start to move your shoulder blades back, pull your belly button in. Shoulder blades start to drop back a little bit. Lift your chin, stay there, or get a little bit more active in the pose and drop your shoulders back, stretching the front side of your body. You know where the hip creases are on the front of your upper thighs? Press them forward while you pull your belly button backward. You got that? Yeah, belly button's pulling back to protect your low back, but your hip creases are pressing forward. Just gonna take camel from the hips today. A couple breaths. And then as you straighten up, release your hands, bring those arms forward. We're gonna step the left foot forward here into low lunge, and we've got the blocks to help us. It really pays off to take a moment to I had a favorite yoga teacher years ago, and she would always say, tidy up your pose. Tidy up your pose, meaning before you go into something else, make sure your left foot is in the left lane of the mat, your right knee and your right foot are in the right lane of the mat. This will help stabilize you as you come up to kneeling with no hands, right? Let's bring the arms overhead. Now these are these windmill arms, so the left arm forward, the right arm back. Pause here, and maybe turn your nose and your chin towards your right thumb. Maybe not, maybe you're just looking to the right side, that's fine. So let's come to center. We'll take the right arm forward, the left arm back. Keep turning your head, so maybe you can catch a glimpse of your left thumb. And from here, we can take the twist. So some of you might want to do a little prayer twist. I'm doing today this optional windmill twist, just laying my extended right arm on top of my left knee and reaching my left arm back. So it's modified that it's not quite as much of a twist if I was doing a prayer twist. I am tilting forward a little bit. If you prefer to be just head over knee, that's fine too. Really, anything is great for a twist. Perfect. One more breath in your twist. And then let's untwist, face forward. We're going to do the half splits with the left knee straight out in front of us. So the blocks come back under our shoulders as our hips move back. Left toes are pointing towards the ceiling there. Foot is flexed. So the feeling of dragging your left heel in a backwards direction. And again, that pilot of your hips is in your tailbone area, where you're going to just press back the tailbone to open up the underside of the left thigh and calf. Take a couple breaths, just sort of feeling this, and then if you want to hinge forward and downward more, or move the tip top of your head towards the front of your practice space, and see if that opens up anything else for you to experience this left leg stretch. Inhale, exhale, inhale. As we exhale, lower the left toes, bend the left knee, walk the blocks forward to frame that front foot. I'm going to curl those back right toes under and lift the right knee, if you can. Runner's lunge. Okay? Change your blocks to a happy height for you. You know, some people even use 2 blocks, especially tall people. You know, it's just make it work for you. If you want the runner's twist, your right hand is going to stay under your right shoulder, left hand to left waistband, and then you just lift that left shoulder and pull it back to turn. And of course, there's the optional arm twist too. I'm just going to do a little slight modification today for my own practice. Perfect. Take a couple breaths. Strength, balance. As you untwist yourself, lower the right knee, uncurl the toes, and then we're going to walk that left leg. So I have both blocks inside my front foot, out to the left, onto the floor, and then backwards, so your left toes are even with your right knee. And then blocks are handy. Let's come up to kneeling gate pose. Here we go. Right knee down. Left leg, it's hard to see, but it's extended out to the left. A little tilt to the left. Maybe turn the right palm up. And then we'll come back to center. A tilt unsupported with the left palm facing up, or a block underneath the right hand to ground down and ground the shoulders. And launch both hips vertically towards the ceiling. So perfect. We'll come back up again, and then just once your shoulders are centered over your right knee, or over your, you're going to take that tailbone back a little bit for this version of outrigger pose. So hips are floating. You shouldn't feel any pressure on that right knee. You should have lots of padding under it. What we're going for here is an inner left leg seam stretch all the way up to the groin. If you're not feeling anything, you can work your foot a little further away from the left side of the mat. And you can also angle your toes inward if that makes a difference in the sensation. Yeah. Does this hip feel different than the first? Most people's hips feel very different from one another. Yeah. Perfect. And then let's just tuck that knee underneath us. Blocks to the side. We're going to work our way to standing. So if you want a child's pose here, go ahead. If you'd like to, and then just stand up and maybe at the front of the mat. If you'd rather do a downward facing dog, we'll take a few breaths. And then we'll start walking ourselves in any ungainly way towards the front of the mat, where we'll come up in monkey pose. So if you're standing straight, forward fold over your toes and put your hands against your shin bones. On your next inhale, bring your back parallel to the floor. Reach your head forward as you straighten your knees. So we call this coming halfway up in monkey pose. And then take an inhale through your nose and exhale, forward fold towards the floor. Take an inhale here. Pushing into our feet, releasing our hands, we'll roll ourselves up to standing. All the way up. And I want you to grab that left wrist with the right hand and take a little stretch to the right. This is our standing half sun salute. Come back to center. We've done it, so many ways today. This is the fourth way, to the left. We're going to do those bird wing arms and press our heart towards the heavens. And then we're going to bring our hands to our heart in mountain pose. So here we are, finally standing, right? We're going to do a tiny balance today. So if you feel unsteady and you'd rather be close to the wall or use your chair, how's everybody doing? You're okay? Great. All right. How are you? I'm good. Okay. I'm good. I will let you know if I worked. I feel actually had a surprised that I feel as good as I do, and I'm very grateful. very, very grateful. So from here, let's just think about a mini balance session today. I like my arms wide for balance. I just feel a little bit better. You can put yours anyway. I want you to lift your right heel. So you're standing on your left leg, and you just have a little weight on that right ball mount of your foot. Okay? Let's just try to lift and lower a couple times. Your shoulders will be over your left leg, so this knee is just kind of on its own little axis here. And then see if you can just hold it for a second. Maybe flex your foot, just for a second. And then put it down again, and let's try tree today. So we're going to bring that heel, right heel, and put it above the left inner ankle bone. And I want you to lift your toes and touch them down a couple times. Just like you lifted your knee, but you're still really depending on that left leg, left hip, now your whole spine. And then see if you can lift the toes and just kind of hold it, or put the foot against your inner calf. A focal point is pretty necessary here. Something on the floor or the front wall that's not moving. A couple breaths. And then let's step out of it and have weight on both feet. Just kind of shift from side to side a little bit. Erase the memory of depending so much on your left side. And then come to stillness. Find your balancing hands. Lift your left heel. Shoulders down, tummy in, tailbone tucked. And let's just try to depend on our right side. It's your whole spine, but you're really asking the right side of your torso to do a different job than the left side, which is lifting and lowering your leg. See if you can just lift it for a second. Notice how different this feels than balancing with your foot on your leg. And then let's try tree. So toes grounded, deep breaths, then lifting the toes and touching them down. Just feel like you're at the lake in the summer, you're not sure if the water's warm enough to go in. So you're just touching, oh no, I'm not used to it yet. And then, no, it's too cold, so lift the toes and kind of hold them. And then maybe just try sliding that foot to your inner calf. Or keeping with the more active balance, lifting and holding. Balance is its own practice, right? I mean, it just is, and it's difficult. And one of the most important things that we do for our health. And let's step out of it. Awesome. So for those of you who have a cross mat, you can face me. I'll face this direction. For those of you who don't, you can turn to the right, or you could actually turn to the middle of the classroom. It'll be fine. We're going to do both sides, okay? So our feet are wide apart to start. Our arms are overhead, sort of in this pentagon pose, right? Then I'm just going to have you go to your left, tilting star, and coming up and going to your right. Coming up, going to your left. Coming up, going to your right. Coming up, staying here, and bringing those hands to our front hips. So right here where those bumpy crests are, and then for your forefingers and the thumb hooks around to the back. So you got like a little grip here. Inhale, press into your feet, let your head go up towards the ceiling. Exhale, hinging from where your fingers are, just below. Flat back, come halfway down. Come halfway down, don't go further. And I want you to push into your heels and lift your hips behind you a little higher off the floor. And then if you want to go further down, you can. Otherwise, stay right there, opening up the backs of the legs. One more time. If you want to grab your big toes, this traditional wide feet apart, Prasarita Padottanasana pose, you can do that. You can put your hands on the floor. You can come halfway down and go back up again a couple times, just coming down and up. They're all good options. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. For those of you who are forward folded, release your toes if you've had them. Bend both knees slightly. Take your hands to your quadriceps above your knees. I want you to press into your heels and your hands to come up off the floor. Really takes the weight off the low back when you do that. Use your legs and your hands to come up. Turn your right toes, everybody right toes, just whatever direction you're facing, it's good. Notice both my legs are straight right now. I want you to bring your arms overhead here. And with two straight legs, I want you to tilt backwards towards your left leg. And then come back up again, your hands float up. As we go to the other direction, we're going to bend the front right knee and do warrior two. So here we are. Just stay here for a couple breaths and then we'll work with the breath. So feel your feet, activate your inner thighs, maybe squeeze your butt muscles a little bit to stabilize your lower body. Relax your shoulders, front knee still bent. One more breath in and out. And then on our next inhale, straighten the right knee, touch your hands overhead. Exhale, come backwards into a reverse triangle with two straight knees. Inhale the arms overhead, still two straight knees. Exhale, warrior two, bending the front knee. Inhale, straighten the front knee, touch your hands overhead. Exhale to the reverse. Inhale, touch the hands overhead. Exhale, bend the front knee, warrior two. One last time. Inhale up. Exhale back. Inhale up. Stay here. Can you keep that front knee bend from bending? Keep it straight. Lower your arms and find a beautiful little triangle to finish off this side. So if you did bend that front right knee, just straighten it. Yeah. Reach your head across the room instead of down towards the floor. Feel like you're going to touch the wall that your head is pointed towards with the crown of your head. Just lengthen that spine. One or two more breaths. Beautiful. On an inhale, we'll float up. As we exhale, hands will rest at our heart. Turn the right toes to face the long side of the mat. Now we're going to take the other side. So your left toes towards the short edge of the mat. Hands overhead. Tilt backwards. From here, inhale, touch your arms overhead. Exhale, bend your left knee over your left toe, sink into warrior two. And just take a couple of breaths. Perfect. Perfect. It looks beautiful. Yeah. Couple breaths, stabilizing the pose. Which muscles can you squeeze from the waist down so it feels more solid with your feet on the mat? Experiment. Squeeze your left glute, squeeze your right glute, pull your tummy in. Anything that works. And then inhale, straighten that left knee. Exhale, tilt backwards. Inhale, up, and then rebending the knee. Exhale, warrior two. Great job. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, this is Such good balance work. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, we're going to do one more set. So inhale, lift. Exhale, tilt backwards. Inhale, lift and pause. And keep that front left knee straight as we go into our Trikonasana triangle here. If you happen to bend that left knee, can you straighten it underneath? And aim the crown of your head, not down towards your toes, but across the room towards the wall you're facing. Take a couple deep breaths into those adjustments. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The next inhale floats us up. As we exhale, we'll turn our toes to the long edge of the mat and gently step our feet underneath our body. And then we'll have a seat. We'll have a seat. There's so much glare in our room. I'm looking at the clock and I'm going like, we have plenty of time. So having a seat, if you'd rather be on something softer, please put something under your hips, okay? And let's just go ahead and bend the knees and walk the heels in a little bit. If you can take an arm around each knee, maybe interlace your fingers. You can experiment with walking your ankles closer together. It might not work for everybody. Yeah, just squeeze a little bit with your arm. I know that's just your hips. Everybody's hips are different. I'm looking around our classroom, and some people, their knees wing out. It's how your femur goes into your hip socket. Everybody's different. It could be a little bit, but that's why it's okay to have your heels apart. Don't worry about that. We want to make space. So hug each foot in, and then just touch your fingers together. And if you can, pull your chest forward using the strength of your elbows wrapped around you. Just push your spine forward. There you are. Just finding new muscles to work, right? Excellent. So from here, I'm going to release my hands just behind me a little bit. And we're going to cross the left. You can walk your feet a little further away, and then cross the left ankle above the right knee. You can walk that right leg as far away from you as you want to. Just kind of bounce that knee a little bit in the air. Yeah. And then pause for a moment. Two ways to make this more rather than less. One is to slide the right heel up and in a little closer. The other is to walk your hands in a little bit, which is going to move your shoulder closer to your legs. You just want to find some sensation in your IT band, your hip. Again, all of our bodies are different, no matter what the reason. They're all different, and especially with our skeletons. I've seen so many x-rays of people's hips, one hip different than the other. One femur, put into the hip socket at a certain angle, and another, the other side not. So if you feel like your body's asymmetrical, it is. That's just the way we're built. Okay, one or two more breaths. I hope you're feeling a little bit of opening on that left hip. And then we're going to stretch the right leg out, bring our shoulders over our hips, and I'm going to have you take the sole of your left foot and put it down onto the mat outside the outer part of your right knee. And you can scoot that in closer or further away, right? Just so it's comfortable. And we're going to try to sit up super straight. Okay. And then your left hand is just going to stay here on your right knee. And that right hand is going to come around and behind you or out to the side. What we're trying to do is keep our head over our tailbone. We're trying not to tilt. I guess this would be port, right, on a boat. So we're trying to keep our head over our hips. And we're just going to gently inhale and exhale, twist to your right. I'm going to minimize this myself today. Inhale again, exhale, twist to your right. One more time. Inhale, exhale, twist to your right. Gently untwist to face forward. Let's take this cross out of it. Just take a couple wonderful little windshield wipers, and we'll do those two poses on the other side before we come onto our backs to close our practice. Okay. So here we've got our knees bent. We're going to float the opposite ankle. Yeah, we're going to be doing the right hip this time. And to feel more, you'll slide that left heel in a little closer, or you'll walk your hands more under your shoulders. We're just trying to find something that works, right? Yeah, this is for our hips. So wherever you stopped moving, I want you to close your eyes and take 3 or 4 really deep breaths, filling your lungs and emptying them. The actual filling and emptying of your lungs is like an internal massage. Those lungs inflate, they press downward, they press into your right hip area. They do some wonderful work. lean back and twist it. And then let's open our eyes and straighten the left leg. So from here, the right foot is gonna go right down onto the mat or the floor. The whole sole of your foot. There we go. And we're going to take the, let's see, we went this way last time, right? Yeah, so we're gonna go this way. So we've got the knee wrapped, good possession of this. My head is right over my hips. It's not tilting to the side. I'm gonna swing that arm around. And from here, we'll take a nice inhale, getting as tall as we can. And as we exhale, twist to your arm. And again, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, rotate. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. On the inhale, gently turn back forward. Let's go ahead and take those legs straight out in front of you. And from here, grab a block and roll onto your back, bending your knees. Here, keep a block handy. So once you're onto your back, widen your knees a little bit, reach both hands between your legs, and either hook your fingers over your shin or ankle bones, or bring them underneath your heels or the outer edges of your feet. And take a few of those deep breaths again, maybe closing your eyes. You can kick your heels up to the ceiling, that's okay. One more breath. And as you exhale, keep the knees bent, but bring the feet down to the mat. So walk your feet, knees bent, feet on the floor, on the mat. Point your toes towards the short front edge of the mat. And lift your hips off the floor using that block or whatever you're using at home, the wide way. So it's going underneath your hips, not your waistband, right? It's that phony area or just above your tailbone of it. Yeah, perfect. And then rest your arms alongside the long sides of the mat. Take a breath or two. See how this feels. This is just a nice way to settle your hips. You can stay right here in this mini immersion, or you can walk your feet together, your knees together, and float your feet and your knees so that now just the back of your hips are on the block, and straighten your legs overhead. So a true full legs up in the air inversion. Close your eyes and take a few breaths. Sometimes I feel like when I close my eyes, I breathe more slowly and more mindfully, just feeling my lungs fill like we did at the beginning of class, and then feeling them empty, exploring some of that internal real estate. If it would feel good to you and you have your legs up in the air, you can widen them for an inner thigh stretch, outer hip, just a little straddle here. And maybe point your toes and draw some very slow ankle circles here, both directions. And then just pause and gently bring those legs together overhead. Keeping the legs together, bend the knees so the heels start to drop down towards the mat. And then let the knees move away from you so that your toes and heels can come down. Little space between the feet here on the floor. Press down to lift up and remove the block. And then as your hips come down to the floor, let feel your spine settle. But one more time, let's float the feet and give our knees just that, leave some space between your knees. Feel like your thighs are coming down towards your outer ribcage. If you like to rock, it's fine. We're moving into Shavasana. Just a couple mindful breaths, and then feet go down to the long edge of the mat. The legs stretch straight to the far corners. The hands go palms upward, facing the ceiling, along the long sides of the mat. The toes just naturally curl outward. And we'll stay here for a minute or so, going back to our breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Maybe just having a little conversation silently with your body, checking in from the soles of your feet to the roots of your hair and everything in between. Just a visual scan. A few more breaths, feeling the grounding beneath you and the lightness on the top side of your body as it faces upwards. Just noticing the pulling down versus the airiness looking up. And then bringing a little movement to your fingers and toes, just a little wiggling. Begin bending your knees and sliding your heels a little bit higher up the mat. And then rolling towards your right side, supporting your head with your right shoulder or arm. Just laying on that one side for a couple breaths before you gently press yourself up to seated, where we will close our practice together. So taking your time, making sure you feel balanced and strong. And if you like to keep your hands together in front of your heart center, you may. Otherwise, just folding in your lap. Taking a couple more of those really lung-filling breaths, noticing the movement of your torso, of your abdomen, forward and outward. Just feeling the grounding there. And maybe cultivating a little sense of gratitude for carving out this time to take care of yourself this morning. Om Shanti.